Good morning. Welcome to Viking Preparedness. I am a chilly Pastor Joe Fox, 19 degrees. That's cold for us. I'm going to set that down so I can put my Air Force gloves on, which means stick my hands in my pockets. I'm going to start a series today on bugging out. And there actually is a lot to it. And so I just want to get to it, and I think I'm going to divide it up into chunks, if you will, for each video. And so today's video is overall concept and then bug out location. The overall concept is this: you have to have a bug out plan, no matter where you are. We live at Shofar Mountain. A lot of people who live like we do say, I've already bugged out, I live on Shofar Mountain, or something like that. No. Now you're living somewhere. When you live somewhere, you need to have a plan to bug out, to flee. And it doesn't matter if you live in the best place in the world, stuff happens. You know, asteroids, martial law, forest fire, whatever. So you have to have a bug out plan. And ideally, PACE, primary, alternate, contingency, and emergency. Meaning, yes, you have to have more than one bug out plan. So yeah, have a bug out plan. Don't just have a bug out bag or something like that. No, everything we're going to cover in this. So you have to have a place to bug out to which to bug out. It's not just grab your stuff and run, head for the hills. And that's as specific as you're getting. You have to have a place in mind that you're going to. We call that place the bug out location. And so let's consider bug out locations. Where are you going to go? What is that? Bad boys, bad boys. Oh, that's what you're going to do. Okay, we're going to talk about where you're going to go. The first thing is your bug out location has to be far enough from where you live to get you out of the danger that occurred where you lived. Example, forest fires. If forest fires are getting ready to overwhelm your neighborhood, you must flee. Fleeing down the street would not be a good idea, right? If it's martial law, if it's pandemic flu, if it's an eruption of zombies, this is a lot of this is up to you. What do you envision as likely scenarios? It really doesn't matter what I envision. What matters is what happens or doesn't happen. For most bug out situations, forest fire being a great example, I just used that. A credit card and a pair of car keys is all you need, right? Get in the car, drive to a Holiday Inn outside of the danger zone, and Holiday Inn Express so you can wake up smarter than everybody else. And then just deal with it. We're not talking about that. We're talking about, no, you really have to bug out. So you have to pick a place that's far enough away that it gets you out of the danger. Some people have, I don't know what to call it. It's more like a bug out retreat in that, let's say you live in town, on a little lot surrounded by other houses, and you're not really anticipating something physical making it untenable where you are. The Chinese just landed and are advancing up your main street. The forest fire is coming. Instead, you're looking at a breakdown in society in general. And so if society breaks down, you don't want to live in suburbia. But living just, an hour outside of town on a little slice of heaven might be okay. I guess that's bugging out. And there's a lot of you who have that kind of concept. It's like, okay, I'm going to hang out here in suburbia where I have a job and I'm getting paid and, I can do all the things as long as I can, but at some point I'm going to have to move to the country. You're not really at that point bugging out so much as you're moving to a retreat. But we'll work with it. So the first thing is your bug out location has to be in a place that doesn't have the problems that are causing you to flee. Okay? Whatever those problems are. For me, I like them about 2 or 3 driving hours away. Now, this is for a bug out location, not for I'm moving from my untenable situation to a retreat. But whatever. If you are doing that, and I'll shut up on this here in a second, if you are just moving from suburbia to your retreat, it doesn't necessarily have to be that far away, because what the thing that's untenable is there's no money. The stores are closed, and you need to survive and grow your own vegetables and raise your own chooks, right? So you go just outside of town onto your acreage, whatever. If that was the case, though, what you should really do is live there now and continue to work. Just take a longer commute. But I digress. All right, your bug out location. Let's consider some characteristics. What must your bug out location consist? I have seen people who just buy a slice of woods. I'll just buy that. Then that'll be my bug out location. I don't think that's a good idea. You need certain things at your bug out location, and just buying a slice of woods is not necessarily going to get you that. Why is this pointing down? Number one, first and foremost requirement for your bug out location is security. Security from all the things you're running from, number one. Run away, run away. Whatever that is, you need security from that. And you need security from people behaving badly. That one video I did long ago on YouTube, the 2 biggest threats in a Tiawaki situation are starvation and people behaving badly. When society collapses, people aren't as polite as they once were. Law of the jungle type thing. And so you need to consider security. Now, we could do, there have been books written on security, and we don't have the ability to do that right now. So let's just cover some basics. You want a little bit of elbow room, right? You don't want to be right up against somebody you don't know. You don't want to buy a piece of property with your building site or your house right here, and then here's your boundary line, and right here is the, the mutant bikers from hell clubhouse. And even if it's not their clubhouse, could it be in a month, right? You got to have a little bit of room around you. Now, if you buy a place, I know a lot of people, 3 or 4, who have bought, I call them vacation spots, and I think to a degree they are. It's basically you're driving down a country road, you go off of that onto a private dirt road that goes back into hundreds of acres of woods and makes either a big cul-de-sac, a big loop, or it has branches on, but it's kind of like private. It's almost like a gated community, and then people buy little lots that they park trailers on or build a simple, getaway cabin on. My daughter lived in one of those. She rented a house in one, and half the people are never there. It's just like a second home for them. It really depends on who your neighbors are, right? You get a bunch of weirdo neighbors showing up, that could be a bad thing. You kind of want to know who's around you. Now, if you could get something like that where you have long-term tenants, owners living there, so you can get a feel for them. And if it's me and my wife living next door, you're good to go. Right? We're not going to prey upon you. We probably will help you, and we're there for the greater community good. If it's somebody else, it might not be so good. So you're going to have to kind of get a feel for people around you. Now, that applies too when you buy a big piece of land. I've talked about that. You should drive all around the periphery of your land and look at the buildings and the houses and what's going on. You should talk to people about what's going on in your neighborhood, because you don't want to buy some isolated homestead and then find out that, a mile over there is the teenager meth gang on four-wheelers that goes around breaking into houses. You have to do your area assessment. You have to gather intelligence and apply it to your location. So security. Security is huge. I'll talk about developing your BOL in another video, but right now, security is your primary consideration. So when you look at your potential bug out location, BOL, consider security. What are some characteristics that you would like to have for your bug out location other than security? Number one is water, right? If you're bugging out, you're going to be there for a while. You need water of one form or three pace. You got to have water. If you are buying a piece of high desert in Arizona, you better figure out your water plan. Driving into town for water when you've had to bug out is not a good plan. So number one is water. Number two, I would say, is shelter. This can be shelter that you carry with you, but that's less than ideal, right? Generally speaking, unless it's a trailer. And we'll talk about that stuff coming up too. But the bottom line, when you get to your bug out location to start your new life because life became untenable where you came from, you're going to want something to hunker down in. Whether that's a camper trailer, whether that's a cabin that you build, whether that's a shed just to get out of the weather. Consider the weather. Do you have to heat it? Do you have to make sure it's cool? Do you have to make sure it's bug-free? You know, southern Louisiana. How are you going to keep those dragon-sized mosquitoes off of you at night? This type of thing, you have to have shelter as a factor for your bug-out location. So we have water, we have shelter, food. What's your food plan? If you're bugging out, and for the kind of bugging out that I think about, it's kind of like final. It's like we're not coming home again. You know, the world has changed. So therefore, it's permanent until you move somewhere else. What are you going to do about food? Sure, you could store a lifetime supply of food at your location. You could. And then moths and rust and bugs and, you know, things, something could get it. Okay, so what are you going to do about food? You have to eat. Eating is more important than bullets. Food is more important than bullets. If you think you're going to go hunt out here in these woods for the deer and turkey and whatnot, I don't think that's a good plan. During the Depression, white-tailed deer and wild turkeys were hunted almost to extinction in North America, and there were a lot less people. There's a whole lot more people now. I think the deer and the turkey are going to go away quick. And so even if you got 3, how long is that going to feed you for? You got to have your food plan. You know me, I'm big into the whole homestead thing, right? Produce your own food, produce your own critters, all that. Have a plan for that. Fishing is a great plan if you are right near a robust body of water full teeming with fish, right? You can catch fish for a long time, but better if you don't have to go places and interact with your second threat, people behaving badly. So think about food, water, shelter. Fuel. How are you going to cook? How are you going to heat? How are you going to do these things? You're going to need, in our case, we've decided on firewood. Right? And we have that for days. That starts getting into developing your tree and pre-positioning supplies and that kind of thing. But how are you going to gather this wood? How are you going to store this wood to heat, to cook, to do those things? Maybe you want to do coal. I'm telling you, one of the coolest ideas I ever saw was a guy lived on one of those 5-acre lots that's kind of has covenants, and they're like huge McMansions all on 5-acre lots. And so he couldn't do a lot of survival. He was a hardcore survivalist, even though he lived there. So what they did is they hired a backhoe to come into their backyard, dig a big trench, and they put 2 dump trucks of anthracite coal in the trench, and then just put sod over the top of it. And he installed in his home 2 coal burning capable wood stoves. And day to day, he just bought those $5 bundles at 7-Eleven to burn in his wood stoves because he didn't really worry about heating his house. But if the world had gone crazy, he'd have gone in his backyard, dug down 6 inches, and he had a coal mine. I thought that was a great idea. But think about fuel. What are you going to do for fuel? You're going to have to boil water. You're going to have to heat things. Propane only lasts so long. right? So you have to have a long-term sustainable deal. So these types of things, think about your retreat, your bug out location as being able to sustain life. So there's that. Then the next thing I want to talk about is people. We'll do people last because it kind of flows from how are you going to pay for it? How are you going to pay for this place? Most of us are not rolling in money, all right? And land costs money, and as my grandfather said, they're not making any more of it. It's not getting cheaper in general. When we bought Shofar Mountain, it was less than $300 an acre. Now it's about $10,000 an acre. Go figure, right? Maybe $8,000. But it's not going to get cheaper. So you got to have a plan for that. For people who can't afford to buy land, that's when I say make a deal with Aunt Millie. Go to Aunt Millie's place. You have to work it all out in advance, but it's a place, right? My son was going to go in with a couple of his friends and buy half of a duplex out in the middle of nowhere and stock that up as their bug out location. And then his alternate plan was a spike camp up higher up in the Rockies, about a 2-day horse ride away. And they were just going to go up there and cache a camp, canvas tents, food, buckets, the things, so that if they had to flee from their bug out location, which was half of a duplex, they could go up into the woods and live like Red Dawn or something. Hey, it was a plan. Affording it sometimes can be easier with other people. You go in together to buy something, to rent something. But you got to think about it. You cannot just run out into the woods like Daniel Boone. You can't go to, the place where you go set up a big tarp camp every deer season with the fellas. That's not going to work long term. You got to have a better plan than that. So think about that. It could be something like, and again, this gets back to security, right? There's security in numbers. You could have a group of people with trailers and have picked out a place in the national forest where you have cached food and there's a field that you think you're going to plant in. I don't know. I'm just kind of playing with this now in my head as I go along. But you could all drive there in with your camper trailers and circle the wagons like the pioneers did and start making a go. I think you're going to starve to death eventually, but who knows? Maybe you could cache a lot of food up there or something. Things to think about. There is a great book. I recommend it a lot. I don't think the author would like me. It doesn't matter. It's a great book. It's called Creating Life Together. It might be called Creating a Life Together. You can get it on Amazon used for like $10. It's written by Christian Diane Christensen. If you just put into the Amazon search engine Creating Life Together, it'll pop up. And it's a book that's nominally about creating intentional, eco-friendly villages, intentional community, that kind of thing. There's a lot of good information in there on purchasing land with others, how to set that up, everything from LLCs to one person buys it to a nonprofit. There's good ideas in that book, how to manage the land, all that. If you're even considering going in with others on a piece of land, you should read that book. So yeah, you're going to need people, right? And so other people have to buy into your plan, or you have to have a plan to accommodate these people at your place. So you have to select a place that's suitable for having other people. All things to think about with your bug out location. The number one key thing, have one. Have a place in mind that you're going to bug out to. All right, in the next one, we're going to look at the actual departure from where you are to your bug out location, all as part of bugging out in general. All right, I'll see you out there.